In celebration of the Nintendo Switch, I would like to cover its best-selling game and probably give it more attention than is needed. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is obviously one of my favorite games. I would imagine that anybody that owns a Nintendo Switch would feel the same way. It might not rank at the top of everyone's list, but I gotta imagine it's gotta be up there for hours spent playing, considering almost half of the Switch's user base bought it. Rather than doing a typical retrospective, I think it would be fun to do something a little bit different. I could rank the courses, but I feel like that's been done a lot, and more often than not, it just feels like someone's throwing in one sentence per track and moving on to the next one just so they can fill up their video. Not that I think that's a bad thing, but I also like to usually have something unique in my videos. So in typical fashion, I'm going to probably get way too in-depth than I need to get, but at the same time, I'd like to make this a little bit more laid back than my usual videos, since Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is a fun party game and I'd like to address it as such. So rather than analyzing each track individually, I want to analyze the Grand Prix. I've developed my own rubric about how I want to go about that. Each Grand Prix will earn a single point for every track that I like. That's about as subjective as I get. There might not be an actual rubric for what I like. It'll probably be nothing more than when I'm done the race, be like, yeah, I like that one, so it'll get that point. I'm guessing most tracks will get that point. Basically, I'm putting this one in there because I didn't want to do minus points for the tracks that I really dislike. But we'll see how it goes. Next, I want to look at the actual diversity between the tracks in the Grand Prix. I'm going to try to categorize the tracks based off complexity. For example, if it's just a simple circuit, a figure eight, something a little bit more complex. And if I see that multiple tracks in the same Grand Prix tend to follow the same patterns, that would be a strike against the actual Grand Prix, because it would be too repetitive. But it's not just about the track layout, I will also look at the aesthetics and the visuals across the courses. If they all have the same art style, the same patterns, the same color scheme, or just all around it feels like there's not that drastic of a difference, that's also a strike against it. Basically, if I deem that all 4 courses are diverse, the Grand Prix will get 3 points. If 2 of the courses are diverse and then the other 2 are pretty similar, then that'll be 2 points. Anything less than that, and they get a big fat 0. My guess is that most of these Grand Prix will get either 3 or 2 points on this one. 3 points for fully diverse, 2 points for kind of diverse, and 0 points probably won't happen, but we'll see. Also, I'm going to throw an extra point in there if I feel the Grand Prix has a good difficulty curve, where the first track is the easiest, and it gets harder until it gets to the 4th track. And finally, there'll be a handful of stages that completely blow me away. Like when I think of Mario Kart, those are my favorite stages, and I absolutely love them. And I think those are worth an extra 2 points. So for every one of those tracks in a specific Grand Prix, that Grand Prix will earn 2 points per track that I absolutely adore. Also, I will probably be using the words stage, track, and course interchangeably, and I'm sure that I've already done it, so just keep that in mind, they're all the same thing. And similarly, I'll be using the terms Grand Prix and Cups interchangeably as well. And speaking of cups, the first one is the Mushroom Cup, which makes full sense because the first power-up that Mario ever grabbed was a mushroom in level 1-1 of Super Mario Bros., so it's fitting. That's just a little bit of that famous trivia that I'm assuming you guys are subscribed to this channel for. Now, the Mushroom Cup itself is made up of Mario Kart Stadium, Water Park, Sweet Sweet Canyon, and Thwomp Ruins. Mario Kart Stadium is your typical introductory track. It's got a fun nighttime theme in a stadium full of observers all around. Plenty of fun advertisements all across the board, and all around just an enjoyable place to start the game off. There's that one sentence I was talking about per track. I think I've hit my quota. In any case, the actual map for this track is more or less a figure eight, but there is a little bump out to the side where they were able to flex their anti-gravity gimmicks. I like the stage, so let's give this Grand Prix its first point. I don't love this stage, so it's not going to get those extra 2 points, however. Next up, we have the Water Park. This one has a cool aesthetic to it, and you spend a lot of time underwater actually in this park. The Ferris wheel with a big W on it is probably the highlight of the stage for me, but in general the aesthetic here is enjoyable and the music is fun. The issue is, however, that while the aesthetic is different, the map is kind of another variation of a figure eight. When you're actually going through the race, it might not feel it's too similar to Mario Kart Stadium, but with the eye test, if you just look at the maps, yeah, it's a little bit more simple. So Water Park will be getting a point for being a stage that I like, but it will not be getting 2 points for not being a stage that I love. And already we can guarantee that this Grand Prix will not get 3 extra points for having 4 diverse courses. But the single point for the difficulty curve is still available because I do think that there is a slight uptick in difficulty between Water Park and Mario Kart Stadium so far. Sweet Sweet Canyon is a dessert paradise. Outside of a handful of set pieces in the Mario Party series, I don't think there are many stages that I play that I feel like I want to eat what's in the screen. This is a very unique stage, and I enjoy it more because of how unique it is. It's actually a stage that I would say that I love, so I think there's 2 points additional right there. It just all around gives me good vibes, and I have a major sweet tooth, so that could play a big role into this. I like that the track has a certain amount of unique elements, like when it splits off into multiple sections, or has a big cannon that flies overhead that lets you look at the fun set pieces below. The funny thing is, this map is almost a typical figure 8 if it wasn't for all of those divisions that happen in between, and then the blasting cannon section. But I won't be that harsh on it. I'll say that this is diverse enough compared to the first 2. Well, technically, it's 1 point for being a stage that I like, and then 2 bonus points for being a stage that I love. But yeah. And the full Grand Prix is on track for getting that extra bonus point for having a good difficulty curve, as well as 2 extra points for being somewhat diverse. Let's see how the last course looks. Thwomp Ruins. Do you guys call it Thwomp or Twomp? I've heard people call it Twomp, and I feel like that's wrong. I love the aesthetic here, by the way. It's got that rustic feel, and I mean, it's called Ruins, so it makes sense that it looks like this. The track itself does look like a giant loop, but there are a lot of turns throughout, a lot of divisions in the sections, and a lot of obstacles you gotta go around. I'd consider this a track that I like. I'd consider it the actual hardest track in this Grand Prix, and I would say that similar to Sweet Sweet Canyon, it is diverse enough and sticks out amongst the rest. I wouldn't say this is a track that I necessarily love, but it still gets the 1 point for being one that I like, an extra point for capping off the good difficulty curve in this Grand Prix, and an extra 2 points for being a kind of diverse Grand Prix, with really the only culprit here being those first 2 tracks kind of having a similar map. But I guess we can tally this up. Mario Kart Stadium got 1 point because I liked it. The Water Park got another point because I liked it. There were 3 points at Sweet Sweet Canyon because I loved it. 1 point for Thwomp Ruins because I liked it. 1 point for the whole Grand Prix for having a good difficulty curve. And 2 points for being kind of diverse. Which means if we tally it all up, that's 9 points. Our inaugural cup, the Mushroom Cup, got 9 points. For those of you new around here, I generally tend to upload every day at 11 AM Eastern Time. And if you check out my playlist, I went through a pretty in-depth retrospective on Mario 64, Mario 64 DS, and Super Mario Sunshine, as well as a handful of other retrospective playlists or individual videos that you can check out on my channel. At some point soon, I'll be doing a Mario Galaxy series as well, but in the meantime, I'm doing Mario Kart, so check back here every day at 11 AM if you're interested in following along. Tomorrow, we'll be going through the Flower Cup.